Good afternoon. It's my honor to be here today to speak to you about the concept of outplacement in human resource practice. My name is Barry Kirkwood. I'm the General Manager for JM Gemini Personnel, and I will talk through today about how companies can support their employees who are being terminated and moving on to their next career opportunity. But first, I'd like to give a little introduction about myself and also about Gemini. I have been in China for 7 years. I've been working in a number of different industries, and I've been working with Gemini for the past 2 years, supporting our staff through a number of our different services. And for Gemini, we provide a number of different services. The one I will talk to you about today is outplacement services. We also provide a lot of HR consulting services such as personality development, training and career coaching, and skills assessment. Gemini Personnel is our main part of our business where we provide executive search and selection, such as permanent recruitment, as well as other services such as visas for foreign nationals working in China, as well as temporary staffing, recruitment, and outsourcing services. But now on to outplacement. And I think for many people in China, the concept of outplacement is still a little known subject. And outplacement is helping employees who are coming to the end of their time at a company, whether it's because of redundancy or restructuring. And this is a chance for a company to support these employees to develop their skills to help them find a new job or provide some coaching and training to transition into their new career move. And we do have a number of examples where this is commonly used to help employees. As we've probably seen over the last few months, a number of companies, unfortunately, have had to close due to financial reasons. And that, of course, affects all employees in the company. And some of those multinational companies will then provide the outplacement support for those affected staff to then move on and find new jobs. Other examples are, for example, a senior executive manager, maybe the CEO, general manager, or another C-suite level employee who needs that support to get back into the job market. So someone who's maybe been with the company for many years, providing that executive level support to enable them to find their next career move. And as well as this is happening a lot in China and around the world at the moment, a lot of organizational restructuring, looking for employees to change careers and how they can market themselves as they transition into a new career path and a new career role. And I guess the question a lot of people do ask us is why? If an employee is leaving the company, why do we want to then help them find another job? As long as we fulfill our legal obligations, we pay compensation, we terminate the contract legally, why would we then also spend extra time and money to help these employees? And I think there's a number of reasons why it would be beneficial for an employer to do these things. And I think number one, it is to help strengthen the reputation and the brand of your company. Even though these staff may no longer work for you, they are still your ambassadors. They will still talk to people, their friends in their new jobs, in their careers, about the experience they had with you. So I think if companies are able to provide that support for employees as they are leaving, then it can leave a strong positive impression of the employee as they move on into their next career. And I think that also goes on to the next point. It also helps maintain the reputation that the company and the organization really cares about its staff. They care about them at the beginning of their journey with the company, and they also care about them at the end, and also beyond into the next move for their affected staff. And I think it can also make the staff who are still within the company feel that the company does care about their staff. And it can also reduce the disruption and the negative impact, even for those who remain in the company, if they can see that steps are being taken to support those employees who are leaving. And then I think, again, this is probably an issue that might be the biggest reason why you might think to do it. It can also help reduce any potential conflict and also help reduce the risk of any legal action. As long as everything is done correctly and providing this extra support for outplacement, I think even a negative departure can have positive ending if you are able to provide these extra services as well. And I think for the employees, it can also help them to reduce the stress, anxiety, and help them to move on into their next opportunity. I think anyone who is leaving, especially if it's through a restructuring, a redundancy, or reorganization, it's going to affect them in many different ways. Of course, financial worries, their worries about their next job, emotionally, their confidence. So I think helping people in these situations in hard times to give them some positive things to look forward to and some support can really help the employees to move on in a positive and productive way. And I think what it can do as well is it can obviously help those employees, especially if maybe they haven't been out of the job market for a while, they've been a loyal employee for many years, then they have to adapt to the current environment. Maybe they haven't had to apply for a job in many years. They've had a number of internal promotions or moves within the company, and now they go back out into the job market completely fresh. And they need a lot of advice and training on how to get back into the job market and how to market themselves and their own personal branding to make sure that they are given the best feeling of themselves to future employers. And I think that can also help with the actual technical skills of job searching. Of course, more and more of this is done online these days, but there is a great skill to being able to catch the eye of a recruiter, or of course, catch the eye increasingly these days of an AI algorithm that might be filtering candidates who apply for jobs as well. And as well as the job application part, I think there are other skills that you also need as well, because applying for jobs online or through company websites is a main strategy. But I think more and more these days, networking through personal contacts, business contacts, clients, to again make people aware that you are available in the market, and also to find potential opportunities that might not be advertised through traditional channels. And I think one of the key skills there as well, again, is the interview techniques, which we will go into in a little bit further on in the presentation. And I think to take a step back in this process as a company, it's also to think about the things that you need to consider as an organization before making redundancies, whether it's because of company financial reasons or restructuring. Not just thinking about the compensation and the legal part. It's thinking about the whole picture and how it's going to affect the employees leaving, affect the employees that are going to remain, and affect the company reputation and branding within your local market. And as we go through just some of the key components here that you should all think about if you are making redundancies or restructuring. And I think it is essential to make a whole project and think of every scenario that you can think of, because as we have with clients, and I'm sure you have stories of this within your own company or from your own clients, where things weren't planned out correctly, whether it was the communication or the strategy or the legal paperwork, and then that causes a lot of risks to the company in terms of legal disputes or disruptions from unhappy or angry or, yeah, frustrated employees. So the more you can plan the project, and that can go down to, of course, the legal preparation, and then onto the communication strategy. Who makes the announcement to the employees? Where do you do it? Is it done one by one? Is there a lawyer available? And in certain cases, is there security available? So yeah, hopefully these things never happen, but it's always good to be over prepared to make sure that you can try and identify every scenario and every potential problem that you can have there as well. And I think, again, to go back to the previous points, it is supporting those impacted employees, even if they can see that the company is not doing well or that the company is going through a restructure. When the announcement is made, it is like a breakup or a loss to someone. It can be something that might only happen to an employee once or twice in their working life. So the emotional impact of that is something that really needs to be considered by the company and the organization as well, because in those moments, how people are spoken to, how they are treated, will have a big impact on how they react. And that can, of course, be in a negative way, and trying to lessen that negative impact there as well. And I think one of the key ways to help prepare that is to coach the staff who will be going through with the announcements and the redundancies. So that could be the HR team, it could be the internal communications team, it could be the senior management team, to make sure that they are aware of all of these risks and the things that they should also be prepared for as well. Because again, even like the employees, it's not something they maybe have to experience much in their life. Even for the internal staff, it might be their first experience or only second experience of doing something like this and making announcements like this. So the more you can prepare your team, the better and more smoothly that these things can hopefully go. And then for us, we go through a number of different programs. And as you can see, there are two very clear tracks there. There is the individual and the collective. For individuals, this is generally what the service we provide is for senior executives. So this might be someone who's, as I mentioned earlier, a director, a CEO, and they are being moved out of the company for restructure or a variety of reasons, and providing that executive level support for them to get back into the market, because even at that level, there can be issues around, of course, at the high salary level or the high status level. It's making sure that they feel that they can re-enter the market, that their confidence hasn't been affected too badly, and providing that support and the one-to-one tailoring to make sure that they are getting back into the job market, that they are positioning themselves to find jobs at that very high level, where of course the market is very competitive and a lot of these jobs can be done through personal and private networks. On the collective side, this can be more mid and junior level management. And the way we provide these support is, again, preparing the managers and the staff that will be delivering the announcements and delivering the procedures, whether that's the legal team, the HR team, finance team, and anyone else that might be involved. So we can do pre-announcements and pre-preparation workshops for the teams to make sure, as I mentioned on the previous slide, that everyone is on task and that there are very limited opportunities for mistakes or miscommunications to be made there as well. Something that we also provide as well is on-site support. So in that moment when the announcement is being made to the staff, we are also often on site to provide some advice, even sometimes on the emotional side, because we've had experiences where staff have been told that they are being made redundant or their job is no longer available for them in the future. And of course, that's a very emotional moment for them. And they can get upset, they can get angry, they can get frustrated. And we do have very experienced support staff here that can give them even just, yeah, someone to listen to, someone to give them some support in that moment to make sure that the negative feeling that they have doesn't go so deep, and that we can start to get their mind prepared for the next steps. So they're moving on and already thinking about, okay, this is ending, I'm going to be getting made redundant soon. I need to start preparing myself for my next career move. And we also do that as well in group outplacement workshops as well, because I think these can work because then again, for the affected staff, it can make them feel like they're not alone, especially if they're being made redundant with some of their colleagues who potentially be their friends. It can also be a way to support each other through cooperative workshops, talking through it, and then they can also support each other in the job searching and the job application market as well. And then what we also can provide as well, again, is providing some coaching or some workshops or some communications for the staff who are remaining in the company. Because in these situations, even though they haven't been made redundant, they of course can have some anxiety that maybe it will happen to them in a few months, or just about how the company will be structured in the future. So having these kind of workshops for the staff that aren't affected by it directly can also help maintain the atmosphere and the positive feeling for the staff within the company as it moves on into the new phase. And just to go into a little bit more detail on the individual job focused search. And again, this is just for the individuals, and it can be the senior level, but it can also be at an individual level. And we do actually sometimes get people who approach us asking for their own programs, because they realize that, especially 2020 and this year in 2021, the job market is incredibly tough for anyone in virtually all industries. So being able to do everything you can to prepare yourself to be searching correctly, to have your branding, whether that's your resume or your LinkedIn profile or any other personal professional profiles you have, making sure they are doing the best job of representing who you are, what your skills are, and what you can offer to future employees as well. And then one of the things that we do a lot of work on for people more and more these days is networking skills. I know for some people, depending on the kind of job that you're in, it's not something that comes naturally. So having some coaching, some advice, and even just a bit of a project plan to get people to think about certain events they can go to, certain people they can try and connect with, and then having certain goals and targets for themselves to at least reach out to people and build that network to try and find their next opportunity. And again, I think one of the key moments is interviews and elevator pitch. Interviews, of course, we all know that For some people, they're the most terrifying thing that they can ever do in their life, a job interview. And sometimes we see that for candidates ourselves, and maybe some people watching this today will have that experience of going for an interview is almost like going to the dentist. It's something you never want to do, but sadly we all have to do it at some time. So trying to make you get over those nerves to make sure that you are, again, presenting yourself in the best possible way. And I think all of these things are designed just to give people the confidence and the support and the tools that they need to get back into the job market, so that the gap between the previous company when they're made redundant and then moving on into the new one is not a long one. And of course, the longer it goes for people, if they go through job interviews or job searches and they don't have any success, that's when the confidence can really start to dip. So through the coaching, we can provide, again, all of these tips and tools and techniques, as well as the emotional support there as well, to keep people motivated, on track, and keep focused on their goals. And as you can see, through the different phases, there will also be slightly different methods that we will use, from the junior clerical assistants all the way up to the director level, senior leadership teams, and across different industries as well. So we do have consultants and experts that, of course, will understand the industry that your affected employees are working in, and obviously the application processes, the interview processes, the assessment and the branding can be very different depending on the level of job and level of industry. And that, again, is something that we can do to tailor the job search, the interviewing, the networking, the marketing, the personal branding to your specific needs and your employee's specific needs as well. And this is some of the things that we talked about here as well. This is going a little bit more detailed as well about how you would also look at it for yourself, because I think a lot of people think that their job application process begins and ends at their resume. And of course, we've all had resumes, we've all written them, we've rewritten them, we've asked friends to check them for us, we've had headhunters check them for us. And I think there is much more that you can do than just the 1 or 2 page resume that you have. It's also taking a look at yourself and how do you brand yourself? What are some of the key things if you're speaking to a friend, if you're speaking to someone in the street, if you give an elevator pitch, how do you brand yourself? How do you give that 10-second, 15-second introduction, and where do you think your key strengths are? And then I think also it's a good opportunity to maybe take a step back and actually think, okay, well, if I'm being made redundant now, do I want to find a job in the same industry, a competitor, or something like that? Or do I think this might be a good chance to take a step back and think, do I want to go somewhere else in the next 6 months? Or do I want to plan for 5-10 years ahead and think, okay, I will maybe go somewhere else and maybe transition into a new career, a new industry? And how do you plan that part as well? So I think all of these things are a good chance for any affected employees who are being made redundant to just look within themselves, their personality, their strengths and weaknesses, such as a SWOT analysis, and where they can maybe grow and where they can find areas for personal development, and what they can do, again, to maybe find some positive out of the negative of being made redundant. And then for collective, I mean, we follow a lot of the similar kind of forms, but then I think it's also a great tool to use in a group workshop, because then you can also speak to your colleagues and your friends who are in the same situation. And I think that it's a good way to talk through the CV writing part, so you can also assess other people's CVs, and you can judge for yourself if it's good or bad. And then you can then take that view and then apply it to your own CV. And by speaking to other people there as well, career aspirations, career ideas, what their job search strategy is, then I think all of these things can be done very well in a group, because then it can give you some new ideas, new inspiration, and new motivation to move forward and make more positive steps in your own search. And I think for me, that's a very brief introduction of the services that we can provide. I would be happy to speak to anyone who is watching this today, either by email. You can find more about our services through our WeChat account, through our website. And we're more than happy to speak to anyone who wants more advice about outplacement, how they can benefit from themselves, or, of course, how their company can benefit from having outplacement services provided to their affected employees. So thank you very much for watching today, and I look forward to speaking to you.